So at the moment, there's a lot of talk in online movie review channel circles about the release of the new live-action Disney Snow White movie, and we've discussed the controversy surrounding that film. Yeah, certainly the film has had a lot of problems, to be fair. And it's possible that Disney, have taken stock of some of the criticism that the film has received over the last few months and done some reshoots and reworked the movie, re-edited the movie to make it a bit more palatable. Who knows? But as for it breaking even, I can't see that happening. Conservatively, the budget for the film is something like over $240 million. But with reshoots, who knows how much higher it might actually be. Now, one thing I have seen people do on various channels is they're going to the websites of various cinemas in different cities around the world, and they're looking at the bookings for Snow White for this weekend to try to gauge how popular or unpopular the movie is going to be. And they're finding a lot of empty movie theaters or theaters that have only a handful of people who've made bookings already. And that's certainly interesting. However, I don't know how accurate or how reflective that is of the popularity of a movie, because I haven't seen it done even for a popular movie. So I don't actually have a point of comparison to draw on. And it is right now, it's Tuesday the 18th of March. The film doesn't open officially until the 21st. A lot of people don't make weekend plans until it's a little bit closer to the weekend, after all. And a lot of people are going to be walk-ups. So a lot of the attendees at the cinema are going to be walk-ups as well. They're not going to book in advance. So we'll have to wait and see. Look, one way or the other, we're going to probably have a good idea of the performance at the box office of this movie next Monday, when we have the opening box office numbers for this weekend. I think another important factor to consider that's hurting films at the box office lately, and it's a pretty major one, is that a lot of big Hollywood productions are not seen as being as important entertainment events as they once were. They're not considered to be must-see in the cinema kind of movies, because so much scripted drama and entertainment is now available on streaming services, and so people can get a more than adequate amount of big budget TV shows and original streaming movies right at home from the comfort of their couch. What's the draw in leaving your house and paying to go to see most films in the cinema these days? Especially something like this new Snow White film, which, there's not an awful lot of public goodwill towards, it appears. Now, Screen Rant had an interesting article about Snow White's box office. It says Snow White's budget versus box office projections, how much it needs to make. Now, I'll include the article linked below for you to read in full, but I want to skip down the article a little bit. It says Snow White's budget is reportedly $240 million. Disney's latest remake is one of their most expensive. According to a report by Variety, Snow White's total production budget was $240 million, making it easily one of the most expensive Disney live-action remakes of all time, behind only The Little Mermaid's $250 million in 2023 and The Lion King's $260 million in 2019. Later, the article says, while modern film budgets have ballooned in recent years, that's definitely true, with a growing number of movies finding their total production budgets reaching around the $300 million mark. How did we ever arrive at this point? And some even making it all the way up to $400 million. Snow White's $240 million is still quite a hefty price tag. Disney likely wanted this movie to sit in a slightly less expensive category than some of the most expensive movies of all time. But the production issues faced by the film have ballooned costs into a much higher number. It says Snow White's opening weekend box office projections. It says the film isn't set to have a huge opening. As per the Hollywood Reporter, Snow White is set to earn $53 million over the course of its opening weekend at the domestic box office, with a total range of anywhere between $48 and $58 million. While this isn't awful, it also isn't an extremely positive situation, especially considering that Snow White's box office projections were significantly higher not too long ago. Of course, projections are simply predictions made by professionals, and films will very often do much better or worse than initially predicted. Yeah, it really doesn't bode well for this movie, to be fair. I mean, $53 million I don't see how that's going to be enough for a movie with this kind of budget to break even. And the question becomes, when is Disney going to learn that the main reason they're suffering these commercial and critical headaches in recent years is because of the unpopular creative decisions they've been making with their films? And of course, spiraling financial costs, which are largely caused by the creative mistakes they keep making. I mean, don't tell me these films need to be this expensive. I mean, come on. Where are the cost controls? Films are given budgets for a reason. They're supposed to be the operating costs for a production that filmmakers are supposed to work within. They're not supposed to go over budget if they can help it. Why do these films consistently need to spend more gazillions of dollars to actually get finished? Going over budget seems to be the rule rather than the exception these days. I mean, why are major reshoots constantly being needed? We're seeing this more and more. You know why? Because the wrong creative people are being hired to make these films. People who seemingly can't sit down and come up with a good story idea from the inception with interesting and likable characters. You know, all of this should be done in pre-production. And then make the film, go into production properly and efficiently and economically make a film with the budget they're given. The expensive reshoots and costly re-edits and reworkings of so many of Disney's recent big budget movies wouldn't be necessary if the people making the films knew what they were doing. Anyway, later in the article it says, Snow White likely needs to make over $500 million to be a box office success. Snow White needs to make a lot of money to break even. No surprise there. Snow White's reported production budget was $240 million, but film studios tend to do their best to obfuscate the actual costs of their movies so that the numbers seem better for them and their shareholders. In most cases, in order for a film to break even, it has to make double its reported budget, which accounts Snow White's marketing and distribution costs, meaning that the remake would need to earn somewhere around the $500 million mark in order to be considered a box office success. Yeah, so I can't see this film doing particularly well. I could be wrong. I could be very surprised next Monday, but I don't think so. And I think many of you guys agree with me on this. So is this going to be a second box office dud in a row for Disney following the underperformance of Captain America: Brave New World, a film that also went over budget quite a lot? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon thing for notifications. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.